Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our first meeting of the Communicators Toastmasters group for the month of April. Hope many of you had a good last week and all that, and here we are for the first meeting of the month. I'd like to welcome our returning members and any guests in the room. And first off, I would like to start off if we could recite the mission of the club. It's in the lower left portion of your sheet you have in front of you. And if you can follow along without looking at it, that'd be great. So here we go.
We provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth.
Thank you very much. So, once again, welcome to our first meeting of April. Welcome our members. And I'm curious, do we have any new guests in the room? Any guests? Excellent. We're always glad to see new guests here. Would you be willing to stand up and tell us a little about yourself and
Sure.
what brought you here to the corporate boardroom of Cars.com?
Yeah. So hi everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Amy Carrillo. Currently part of the TOCC team. There's only two of us, so feels kind of like Game of Thrones down there. Anywho, so the reason I'm here today is because I'm currently part of a coding boot camp, and every time we develop an app, we have to present it to our group, or if we have a group project after we develop the app, we have to present it to our group. And so, although for the most part I think I'm decent at speaking in public, for the most part sometimes I'll like choke up and I get really nervous before I stand up in the group, and I'm just like, why am I nervous? Like, I know I don't have to be, but it's just one of those things that you kind of just gonna have to get over. And so I think by me practicing and being in large group settings and just getting over that initial fear, I should be okay. So that's why I'm here. All right.
Cool.
Welcome.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself, and I just feel like if I've caused any grief to TOCC in my past, I apologize profusely. It's one of those things where TOCC is kind of like the last contingency, so hey guys, that kind of stuff. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So I'd like to now introduce the members of our team who will be helping with the meeting. First off, I'd like to introduce our grammarian, Lindsay.
Sorry.
Greg's mouth's not full. Go to Greg now.
Alright, so I'm the grammarian for this meeting today. My role is to watch for proper uses of grammar and also to track those pesky empty words like ums and uhs that people say when they're up there speaking, trying to get their thoughts correct. I also have a word of the day. It is newfangled. It's also up there as well. I'll have one down here so it's easier to see. And the definition is attracted to novelty or of the newest style or kind. And used in a sentence, newfangled cell phone cameras have all but replaced the handheld Polaroids of the past. And if you use this word while you're up there speaking, I'll ring a bell and be really happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. It's always good to hear about the words of the day, and as well as keeping us attuned to what we can do to make our speeches all the better. Next up, I would like to introduce our timer for the day. Time is of the essence for many of us, especially in trying to get our point across as quickly and as concisely as possible. And for our timer today is Mr. Greg Jopa. Did I pronounce that right?
Yep, Jopa, okay. You got it.
Okay, so Greg, would you tell us a little about your role as today's timer?
Sure. Hey everybody, I'm Greg. So my role as today's timer is to keep you all in check with how long your speeches are. So for example, for Angela's speech, that's going to be between 8 to 10 minutes. The green light will be on at 8 minutes, and then yellow at 9 minutes, and red at 10, and I'll face this light towards the speakers. I'll record these times on the sheet and announce them at the end of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. And we also have our evaluators today for our main speech today, we have Aaron Eccles as our main evaluator for the big speech, and also for the end of the day, we have our general evaluator in the form of Mr. Dennis Sherman, and they will be giving us a little concise roundabout of what we've heard today, as well as what our first speech will be. So, one last thing before we move forward, I would like to deliver a thought of the day, and this actually came to mind when I ended up at Music Box Theater the other day. I was just sitting around talking to people, and all of a sudden, on this two-person couch, I had this. All of a sudden, these two women just plopped themselves down next to me. No, excuse me, just plopped themselves down between me and my coat, and just basically went, "Is anyone sitting here?" No. And then they just sat down and proceeded to talk for about 25 minutes, as the women I was talking to over the other couch were just very in awe at how I was just willing to just let these two women just sit down, get between me and my headphones and all these things, and after they left, they were just surprised how zen I was. And this filled my head for a while, and then I found this quote by Robert Brault, which I thought really summed up my thoughts about it, which was, "Life becomes easier when you learn to accept the apology you never got." And I thought, that's a great way to put it, because most of the time my thinking is, if something bad happens to you, well, that's the worst thing that happens to your day. But just one of those little thoughts of the day, and one reason why I try not to just blow up at the smallest little thing, because some people say things can always be worse, but sometimes it's best to try to just let water under the bridge and move on with life. Life's too short to get angry over a lot of small things, but it's always good to do what you can to push forward and try to be one for the good of humanity. So now we move on to our first speech of the day, given by our founding member of the Cards Communicators Toastmasters group, Miss Angela Mustis. And her speech today comes from the Competent Communicator Manual, and speech number 10, titled Every Road. The objective of Angela's speech is to inspire the audience by appealing to noble motives and challenging the audience to achieve a higher level of beliefs or achievement, appeal to the audience's needs and emotions using stories, anecdotes, and quotes to add drama, and most important of all, avoid using notes. So, Angela will be delivering her third speech number 10 out of the Competent Communicator Manual, and her passion is to inspire others to move through life with a deep connection to their own purpose and appreciation for their journey, and this is why she takes speech number 10 so seriously. The objectives of the speech are to inspire the audience by appealing to noble motives and appeal to the audience's needs and emotions. And here to complete her third Competent Communicator, please welcome Angela Mustis with Every Road.
Follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. We're all told to follow the yellow brick road. Go to this college, get a great job, meet the one, and start a family. But what is the yellow brick road? Why is it even yellow? Have you ever thought about that? Well, the road is yellow because it represents happiness and optimism. Now, when you think about that, it's pretty impossible to follow the yellow brick road. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I'm here today to tell you about the many-colored road that all of you have behind you through the stories that I share of my road of the past. Today, my road has many yellow bricks. I have a wonderful boyfriend. We just bought a house together last year, and I'm doing a job that I absolutely love to do every day. So I'm going to take you on this journey because it wasn't always that way, and I'm sure your roads aren't always that way either. Because we all have frustrations, roadblocks, new beginnings, and tragedy. Let's start back here in 2012. This was when my road became very yellow. And that was because in 2012 I was the lead singer of a band, and after a show, some guy named Chris came over and introduced himself and said he really enjoyed my singing. He kept asking when he could see us play again. Now, he couldn't remember my name or the name of my band, which was Angela's Pants, but he remembered the date, May 12th. Sure enough, on May 12th, he showed up again, and he showed up to another show, and eventually a few months later, we started dating and are where we are today. A couple weeks after meeting Chris, I was called while on vacation and offered my dream job and career change to be a trainer here at Cars. This was so wonderful to me to have all of these great things coming together at that time that my road seemed paved with nothing but yellow bricks in 2012. And think about yours too. Do you have a dream? Do you have something? Well, guess what? You are paving that path. You pick up the yellow bricks and lay them yourself. Prior to that, I'm going to take you back to here in 2007, because sometimes the bricks aren't yellow that you have to pave, sometimes they're green. Green represents fresh new beginnings. And in 2007, I found myself unemployed for the first time ever. And this was my opportunity to really take that first step towards getting that new career in training. I knew I didn't want to stay in the financial industry. So when a mentor told me to apply for compensation analyst jobs to get my foot in the door with HR, it worked. Classified Ventures opened the door to me, giving me that compensation analyst position, and also opened another door. They were holding something called CV Idol, and we had a singing competition going on here, and I was telling my Toastmaster friend Steve that I really wanted to do this song. He said, "I'll dust off my guitar and learn it for you." So he came in, played the song with me, and even though we lost the contest, that's the day Angela's Pants was born. Steve and I moved forward, and it's all about taking the scenic route. I had no plans or intention of starting a band, but without that scenic route and planning that new beginning, I never would have met Chris. Or, without being unemployed, I never would have found my way to Classified Ventures and ultimately Cars. Now, sometimes you need to take some transitions. And in 2005, I was going through some transitions, still trying to figure out exactly what it was I wanted to do. And orange is representative of change and transition. At that time, I started a new job in October of 2005 because I was leaving one company where I had an awful, awful boss. She was terrible. And I found out about this job at ServiceMaster through some connections. They were actually a client of the company where I worked. And going to that job at ServiceMaster introduced me to my friend Mandy. Mandy introduced me to Toastmasters. There was that little pothole in the road of the company closing, and I needed to find a new Toastmasters club because I was going to be unemployed and without Toastmasters, which at the time for me was totally group therapy. I was at an event, someone saw I lived in Evergreen Park and said, "Hey, we're starting a new club in Oak Lawn." So I went to the very first meeting, and from that point, I made some lifelong friends, and that's where I met Steve, who ultimately became my guitar player for Angela's Pants. You may not think you can make old friends, but when you're going through some transitions, lay an orange brick in your road, and you just might find some interesting new friends, and you can make old friends. Now, I wish I could say that there were no black bricks on my road, but I found myself in 2003 in a deep, deep depression. Black represents tragedy and despair. I was living 1,100 miles away from my family in Denver, Colorado, where I had moved, and I was in this relationship that I thought was going to be the one. And was quickly learning it wasn't. He'd been mistreating me for years. His idea of monogamy was, "Well, I love you. That's all just physical." I was in a hole. I needed to figure out who I was and relearn who I was again. I needed my family, and I didn't know how to get back. My only step forward in my mind was to take the permanent off-ramp. We've probably all been affected by somebody who did that. I didn't know what else to do. And someone miraculously handed me that first orange brick. That first orange brick was the company where I worked, ComputerShare, told us they were closing our office. Here I was already miserable in my personal life, but there was a little catch. They were closing the office, but they were offering relocation if you wanted to go to New Jersey. No way. Sorry if there are any East Coasters in here, but no thank you. But I thought, well, what about Chicago? I need to go home. There was a job here. That first orange brick was handed to me, and I took it and I laid it in my path. You might be able to give someone their first orange brick. We all have these situations in our life. We all have those things in our past. Reach out. You have the power to change it. Now we're going to walk a little bit further back to 1998. This one's falling down a little bit. Stand around. Where I had a road full of red bricks. I had just finished my junior year of college, and I met this sexy, charismatic, passionate, fun guy named Brandon. We were instantly in love. We stayed up talking for hours that first day we met, and it was just love at first sight. I mean, I'm talking like hearts and flowers dancing around your head like a cartoon kind of love. One day, he came to me and confessed that he ran into his ex-girlfriend and he kissed her. I'm sorry, I will not tolerate infidelity, and I was out that door. I said, we are through. I won't put up with this. And I started to drive away. And then it ate at me. How much I loved him. How I don't think I could even imagine living life without him. He confessed to me after all. Now you're probably thinking, what was she thinking? She's crazy. Don't you know, once a cheater, always a cheater? And you'd be right. But if you think about it, if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't gone back and forgiven him, I never would have ended up working at ComputerShare and living in Denver, where they moved me home. I never would have discovered the job at ServiceMaster, where I discovered Toastmasters, and ultimately ended up meeting my friend Steve, who played in that band, and ended up here at Cars because I lost my job at ServiceMaster. And without those things, I never would have had my dream job or met Chris. Today, my road is paved with many colors. And I'm here to share with you that yours is too. Take a look back at your own road and look at all of those bricks. They're bricks that you paved. They're the colors you chose. You have the power to make your own road and build it with each new brick. The road that you're on is the right road. It has to be, because it's the road that you paved. Mr. Toastmaster.
And you can see another fine example of why Angela is definitely our founding member for Communicators with that speech. It was definitely something to think about, and I've even had thoughts about that as well, about think of all these little bricks that I put in my own road over the years that led me to Cars and people who I probably would never have met, and friendships I made, and all these connections. So it's definitely food for thought, I think, for all of us, and definitely gives us a chance to look back on things. So now we move on to the group activity to bring almost all of us up, if we so wish it. We have table topics, where we'll have some impromptu questions and ask for volunteers. And today's table topics master is Nigeria. So, Nigeria, what do you got for us?
Hi everyone, today I am doing table topics, which is where I will ask for volunteers to come up and do a speech on some of the topics that I've put in this bowl today. I chose the topic of food because who doesn't love to talk about food? Kind of runs my life. So, any volunteers?
Sure. What's your favorite junk food and why? My favorite junk food is pretzels. Pretzels in sourdough, pretzels in pumpernickel, pretzels in honey mustard. There's all kinds of different pretzels, and I just keep sitting and one night it'll be one kind, another night it's another. Honey wheat pretzels are really, really nice. Low salt, a little high sugar, but they taste good. My wife really hates it when I get the mustard pretzels out. The honey mustard on pretzels is great, but they have a nice smell. And we get these pretzels from Nature Box that are Kung Pao flavored. Spicy, really, really nice bite, as well as the crunch. The crunch is really good. Carrots are good too. Big crunch. It's not the same as a pretzel. Some days when I'm feeling I need to be healthy, I'll go with a carrot instead of a pretzel. But I really like the crunch, the salt, the extra flavor. And that's what I like about my favorite junk food, pretzels.
Thank you, Dennis. I had no idea that pretzels came in so many different flavors.
Oh, I didn't. I only got started.
Wonderful. Any other takers?
Go ahead.
There's enough for everyone. There you go. Mix it up.
Alright. What holiday that you celebrate has the best dishes, and what are some of those dishes? I think Christmas Eve is my favorite holiday. My entire family gets together and we usually go to one of our cousins' houses and everyone makes amazing things. One of my favorites is my cousin makes these homemade like pita chips. And there's cinnamon and sugar, and every time it gets me every time. She makes this sweet dip that goes with it too. It's really good. And then ham. I love ham. We always do ham, like really basic ham, mashed potatoes, corn. Give me that on any holiday and I'm fine. But sweet potatoes with the marshmallows and the brown sugar. It's just amazing. What else? I always make deviled eggs. That's my specialty. This Easter I tried a new version where you cut, instead of cutting it the long ways, you cut it short and put the inside in it, and then you put the top on it and put 2 little peppercorns and like a little piece of carrot, and it looks like a chick for Easter. That was fun. Time consuming, but fun. And another one of my specialties is I make chocolate pretzel pecan pie, and that one is always a hit. So my family, like Christmas Eve definitely is one of my favorite holidays to get together and just eat until you can't move and you just need to go take a nap. Thank you.
Lindsay, you might want to share that chocolate pecan pretzel recipe.
I can definitely do that.
Thank you.
It's really good.
Any more table topic takers?
I'll try one.
What is your favorite food? All right, this one's going to be difficult because I think it's been brought up before. Food, it's one of the most enjoyable activities that I think that we do on a regular basis. My favorite food, quite honestly, is probably pizza. I grew up on the south side of Chicago, and there's nothing like a deep dish pizza. And I first remember, actually, I used to live next door to Joe Aurelio, if anyone has ever known Aurelio's Pizza. And so Aurelio's Pizza, I probably had it 3 times a week, I think was, and that's where I really grew my appreciation of pizza. And then I remember having my first Lou Malnati's deep dish sausage pizza, which today now is my favorite one. And I've actually met Mark Malnati, who is the son of Lou Malnati, and I had quite an extensive conversation with him about pizza. But that pizza, again, is my favorite food, and I could probably eat it every day if my wife would let me. Thank you.
What food do you refuse to eat and why? I don't tend to think of myself as being very picky about food, but I can say that I avoid various types of food. The first type of food that I really avoid is highly processed foods. Because my reaction that I developed over the years is that when I am at the supermarket and I grab a product, first thing I do is to read the ingredients list. And then the sugar content, protein content, the salt content. That's kind of automatic type of reaction. So if I see anything that's unhealthy, highly unhealthy, and proportionally not delicious, I avoid it. So unhealthy foods is the foods that I refuse, first of all. Other than that, I think that I would be willing to try any other types of food except vinegar. Vinegar is the only ingredient that I absolutely cannot tolerate near me. So every time I order a salad at a restaurant, I have to make sure that there is no vinegar and that the dressing is on the side. So unhealthy foods and vinegar are foods that I refuse. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's a good place to cut off. We gotta keep it time, but thank you so much for Well, that was definitely, here comes the bad pun, that was definitely food for thought. So, now we move on to our first evaluation of the day. This is evaluating Angela's speech, Every Road, and we have Aaron Nichols to tell us a little bit about what we found out. Aaron? Angela, your speech, Every Road. I love the way that you opened your speech. The song caught everyone's attention and gripped us with the visuals, leaves it open for curiosity. So people are wondering, what does the different colors mean? You were quite energetic in your speech, which was great. You used stories and anecdotes primarily, and that worked really well in the context. One thing that I was a little confused about at parts were some of concrete examples of the colors of the brick. There were a couple of instances where I wasn't entirely certain I had grasped the concept. But for the most part, I think you did a very good job of explaining how each of the different colors were integral to the overall road. And I think it was very motivational. Thank you. Thank you, Aaron. Now you'll hear from Greg, our timer, to find out how we did today. Greg?
I'll stay seated. All right, so here is the time report from today's meeting. Angela gave this first speech. She was very close. It was supposed to be between 8 and 10 minutes. She clocked in at 10 minutes and 9 seconds. And then over to the table topics. Dennis, you were at 1 minute, 22 seconds. So just about half a minute short. Or no, I take that back. Table topics are supposed to be between 1 to 2 minutes. Okay, so you were right in that range. Lindsay, you were 1 minute, 50 seconds. I forgot your name, so I wrote down Pizza Man. What is your name?
I'll take that. Russ.
Russ. You were at 55 seconds.
I'll go by Pizza Man.
And then Mr. Picky, I forgot your name too.
Picky man.
Tony. Tony, you're at 1 minute and 38 seconds. And then Aaron, for your evaluation, you were supposed to be between 2 and 3 minutes. You were at 1 minute, 37 seconds. Thank you.
And now we'll hear from our grammarian, Miss Lindsay Funk.
All right, you guys made my job easy today. I counted 3 ums for myself, 1 while I was up there, 1 for Russ, and 2 for Aaron. And no one used the newfangled.
Oh.
That's it, thanks.
I could have talked about newfangled pretzels.
I so wanted to use the word. I kept trying to find an opening, but no, my brain wasn't able to throw something out there. It's like
I should have
swear.
done it for the chicks, but I didn't think about it. There.
And so now that we've heard from our timer grammarian, now we'll hear from our general evaluator for today's meeting, Mr. Dennis Sherbet.
Today's pretty good. We've covered all the bases where we tick right through the agenda and did things. There's some stuff that we can work on. We got started late. That's in, I think, large part because we're in a very different location, and I, for one, got surprised by, I know there's a kitchen over there, and I did not realize it did not have a microwave. So I thought I was being clever and saving time by bringing everything down, and then I had to go back to go nuke in the middle, so that slowed me. Something to remember for next time we end up here instead of in our regular location, that it takes a little bit more time to get here. We had people doing new roles today, which is terrific. Nigeria, nice set of table topics, interesting stuff to work with. Greg, all of the timed speeches should use the light, including the table topics. So the timed speech, presentation, table topics, evaluation should all have the light go. I found it a little disconcerting to be doing table topics and then realizing, oh, he doesn't realize he should be using the light.
I thought it was 2 to 3 minutes, so I was like, nobody made it to 2 minutes, so no one got the green light. So my mistake.
So
Good feedback.
we'll catch up on that as everybody has a chance to work through all the roles and learn what they are. Aaron, your evaluation, although a little bit short, according to what the time we're looking for, hit the points of making sure that you talked about things that Angela did well and something she can work on. As a short first evaluation, I thought it was pretty well done. So more practice, but
Thank you.
practice makes better. So good job there. Overall, a successful meeting, I think. Mr. Toastmaster?
Thank you, Dennis. And I do agree, when we're in this room, it does feel a little thrown off from where we usually are and all that. So because we have to take into account everything, such as we don't have our podium, we have to figure out where to hang the banner and all these things. But I do agree. Oh,
May I add something?
Oh, sure.
I'm sorry if it's appropriate or not. I agree. So we not only we started late, I also think that we spent too much time in introduction, describing the roles. I think when there is guests, makes total sense. But so we actually started like it was 20 past 12. And then
12.
Yeah, 12:20. And then we start cramming and rushing to do the table topics. So my suggestion would be to allow more room for that real participation and try to move a little bit faster and more concise in this description of roles, which most people know pretty well.
Mhm.
It's a thought that
Mhm.
I like to propose for consideration.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider in regards to that or so. But I mean, I think mainly we go through it because it's part of the tradition. It's kind of like when you go to church and you go through the different stations and like at least like 3 to 5 hymns and things like that. But it's definitely something we'll take into consideration for maybe streamlining in the future to allow for more table topics items as well. But well, that concludes our first meeting for April. So I hope to see you all back here in a couple of weeks when we do our next meeting for April.
Unless we cancel for the is it take your work?
Take your
work?
kid to work day, yeah.
Oh,
So
I'm sorry.
Depending on what gets scheduled where, we may need to cancel.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
it was still on the sheet and all that, but maybe I misread that wrong. But
It was confirmed that they're not using any of the rooms, that everything's going to be contained on the 10th floor lunchroom.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the question is more what participation will look like that day. I know
Oh.
I'm out that day, so
Okay.
it's my birthday.
I'm
I
working.
don't work on my birthday.
So I won't
Okay.
be here.
Okay, so in a sense, it probably is a good thing that we're holding off until the second Thursday of May then. So
No, we haven't said we're going to cancel yet. Let's see how many people sign up for roles.
okay,
If we can get a full slate ahead of time, let's have a meeting.
okay, cool. Yeah, so we have our sign up sheet here in case anyone would like to help us out and get everything set up and help Dennis sleep a little easier at night. That's always a wonderful thing to make me feel good. So. Just take a look at the sheet and thank you all for participating and welcome to our guests and hope you'll come back in the future. And I would like to declare today's meeting closed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.